Hi, I'm Wendy Pease from Rapport International, and today I am here to talk to you about multilingual lead generation. Now, this is a pre-recorded session, yet I am live on chat. So if you have questions as we go along, please go ahead and put them into the chat room and I'll answer them. Now, let's get into the presentation. Give me a minute here while I share it. All right, so multilingual lead generation. My first question to you is, who wants to sell more online? Now, I'm sure most of you are going to say yes, but put it into the chat and put why in particular you're here and what you want to learn today. So I make sure to cover it afterwards. All right, what I've planned to talk to you about is to define terminology, make sure you understand what inbound is, how you can transition that into global inbound, even working from home, and what the direct next steps are that you can take actions immediately. First, let's identify what the difference is between inbound and outbound. Inbound is everything that you're doing online to build recognition of what your brand is and try to take people through the buyer's journey. Outbound is the traditional having sales reps, being face-to-face, being in person, following up, telemarketing, direct mail, that kind of thing. Okay, so this is each of the areas we're going to dive into. I've bolded the areas that I spend a lot of time on and what has worked for me. We're going to get into a lot more of this as we go along, but I wanted to clarify that we're not touching into outbound. There is still a place for that, but this, for multilingual lead generation, we're really talking about inbound today. So remember the good old days when we'd go to cocktail parties and networking events and we'd be, sitting at tables with people we didn't know? Well, that was the way you met people. You never knew who you were going to run into, who could become a partner, who could become a referral source, or who might even become a client. Well, this is how I see social media. It's your cocktail party. You're going out there, you're showing your presence, you're trying to meet people and get connected to see if anything valuable from business can come from that. So I see social media as your networking events. I see your website and SEO, your optimization of your website, as more like the dinner party or the luncheon that you go to where you're having more in-depth conversations. So you might have to answer more in-depth questions about what people are looking for, and you're really connecting with them. Paid search is more like the billboards, things that you're seeing as you go along. So this, as you're on Facebook and Bomba socks are popping out to you, or something you just searched on Amazon are coming up. Those are like the billboards you'd be driving by as you go down the street. Now, I'm not going to get much into paid search. This is something that if you're going to get into, you do want to have an expert, because you can waste a lot of money if you're not doing it right, just as with, doing billboards or advertising. Communities is another hot topic right now. This is, instead of just going to a general cocktail party, like maybe hanging out on LinkedIn, the community is the place where like-minded people are hanging out, and so you can make connections there. Two communities that I'd like to pull out for you that are very globally focused. One is Softland Partners. That's the sponsor of this conference that's going on. They do have meetups all over the world in, I think it's 13 or 14 different cities now. There's new ones launching all the time. I do moderate the Boston meetup. It's all online now, so you can actually attend wherever you want in the world. And another one that I host is the Global Rapport Building Speed Networking. So if you go to our website, you can look for speed networking on there and sign up to get more information about that. But both of these are pulling in people who are interested in global business. There are also a couple other ones that I like. There's the Peak community that is for marketers, and there's Dale Dupree's Sales Rebellion for salespeople that are doing a lot of online selling. If you want more information about that, you can certainly reach out to me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's the cocktail party that I happen to enjoy. I'm on there daily. And to find me, you just go to Wendy Pease, translation expert, on there, and then connect with me. And at the end, we'll have a giveaway if you want to reach out and let me know. Okay, so along with communities, another hot thing right now is ABM. You might have heard something about this, and this is account-based marketing. And that's where sales and marketing are really working together. In the old days, when I started my career in sales, You know, the salespeople would go off and they're targeting people and talking to them, and marketing was trying to get brand recognition. So when the salespeople came in, people would say, oh yeah, I heard about that company. But really the buyer's journey was driven through sales. Now what's happening is sales and marketing have come together and realized that if they identify the targets that they want to talk to, and marketing is creating the content that sales can use, and then that content is supported out online, it shortens the sales cycle and is a lot more efficient for bringing people together. And so it's the hyper focus of sales where you've identified the targets, yet the communications are talking to them at the right way at the right time. So there's a lot more to learn on this. And if you look up Sangram Vajre on LinkedIn, he's the leader on that and does a lot of information about it. All right, so you think about inbound marketing, and you've got to be on LinkedIn, and you've got to optimize your website, and you've got to put new blogs up there, and you've got to have white papers, and creating all this content can really be quite complex and time consuming if you don't have a good plan for it. So here are some tips and tricks that we've come up with to help simplify this. Now, we just launched the Global Marketing Show. It's a podcast that you can find on all your places. Some of those we can transcribe. And then I do a lot of video that we're going to use for our website that can also be transcribed. You take those transcriptions, send them off to a writer, and they can very quickly edit them. So it saves a lot of time of, like, me as the business owner trying to sit down and write it, or the marketing people not having the technical knowledge to create it, yet having to work with the people, or going to your experts internally and having them write, which really isn't part of their job. So it's taking them away from other stuff. So those are two ways, you know, just with talking to people or videoing, that you can get the information and then send it off to an inexpensive ghostwriter or editor that can create the blogs. Now, every blog that you do goes up on your website. They're 500 to 1,000 words. You take 3 of those blogs and you put them together and you create a white paper. Then that's a downloadable asset that you can also go out to the cocktail party and talk about, and try to bring the people that are interested in to read the white paper. Then you take 3 or 4 of those white papers and you put them together, and all of a sudden you have an ebook. So a good way to start thinking about it is, what are the chapters in the ebook that you want? How do you work them backwards into white papers? And that drives content for the blog that you're creating, and you go backwards and then you just do a video about that content. So that's how to simplify creating that content and really working towards assets that can be downloadable and continuing to educate. If you want to know what kinds of content that is ideal to do, you can get Marcus Sheridan's book called They Ask, You Answer. You can go to your favorite local bookstore or any of the online ones and order it. It's become very popular in the marketing world, and I thought it gave great advice on to what content to create. All right, so I'm drawing a blank on his name, the founder, Bill Gates, thank you, I got it. Bill Gates once said that content is king. He anticipated years ago that people who were putting content out would be driving people to their website. So you can spend all this time creating an ebook and put it out there, but if you don't do anything for a year, that's not going to help your website. Content is king. But the consistency is the queen. You've got to be doing it on a regular basis. And so when we started out, somebody said, yeah, ideally you want to blog once a week. And we're like, how the heck are we going to get up to that? We started with once a month. We progressively increased it to now. We've got some patterns and some ways to go and ways to gather content that we create. And we're now at once a week. So pick a consistency that you're going to do. Now, if you're doing global inbound, you've got to have that content in people's native language. So I say that translation is your princess. You want to have it attractive to people. Most people, even if they're bilingual and they speak English enough to do business with you, they would still rather read content on the internet in their own language. So tell me in the chat, do any of you translate? Well, first tell me, do you blog? Yes or no? Is it consistent? So write consistent, yes or no. And then do you translate, yes or no? I want to have more of an understanding as to what's going on here. 95% of the people from research from industry experts have found that even if they do English business, or business in English, I guess would be the right way to say it, 95% of the people would rather read content in their native language, and over half of them are willing to pay more money if the content is translated. So that's why I say you've got to do a good job on doing that. All right, so when you start thinking about translation, there's 6,000 words, 6,000 languages out there. Which ones do you pick? Tell me if you're doing translations, which languages you're going into. It's always fascinating about ways people pick the languages that they go into. But there are processes that you can put in to really be strategic about how you're handling it. Now, I put all these words up here: translation, globalization, localization, transformation, cultural adaptation. There's a lot out there, and in the industry, they all have specific meanings. But if you're working with a good agency or a good translator, they're going to work you through and figure out what you need on that. So let's look over to the wheel. You've got multilingual communications, and if that's your goal for global, multilingual lead generation, then let's look at each of the rings to think about what you're going to do with that content so you can bring those leads in. First place to start is with strategy. What are you trying to accomplish? Is there a certain market that you want to go into? Is it leveraging products across certain markets? Whenever we get a call for a translation, particularly for a website, we say, okay, what are you trying to accomplish? And that will give us more clarity on what we're trying to do. From there, we can figure out what technology. A lot of people are using the Google Translate plugin, and I'll get into that in a minute. The process, what's going to simplify it for you, and what quality you need. Then you've got to think about who your audience is. So your prospects, your customers, you've got to have the right material for them at the right time. And then you get into the content and figure out what you need to do. Google Translate, just don't do it. There are so many problems with it. I see the plugins on websites and I just grimace. It can hurt your search engine results. You've got poor quality. It's not easy for people to find. If you want to read more, you can go to our website. I put the bit.ly link down there. You just need to know FF, small f, capital JTR, and that will give you a lot more detail about it. But don't use it unless it's an unsolicited email that you need to know what it is. All right, buyer's journey. So you go to the cocktail party. You can start that off in English. And you want to have your king, your queen, and your princess on there, but get content out there, get it consistent, and then you can think about translating. But even if you start with English, when you drive them to the dinner table or the lunch table, that's when you want to have your materials translated. So that's where you want to put thought into it. You don't have to do your whole website. You can do a landing page per language that you want to do, but make sure you're answering all the big 5 questions that Marcus Sheridan gets into. Then start going to communities, because that's where you're going to target more people that you want to be with. Then you can get into ABM, and you're going to want to think, I put down below as to whether you translate or leave it in English. And so communities and ABM, that really depends on what you're doing. Once you get to the intake call and the closed deals, when you're really trying to delight your customers and help them and make sure that they're going to stay on, then there's telephone interpreting, there's multilingual chat, which can be chat bots or it can be live chat. And that's what can really help you leverage languages to really connect with your communities. All right, your next 5 steps, and we've got 1 minute left, so we're right on time for the 15 minutes. Rather than starting at the cocktail party, you want to start with the dinner table. Make sure it's all set and you've got everything arranged there. You want to review your website for all the SEO and the top 5 questions. So you want to have your keywords, your search, you want your tags, you want your titles and meta tags, all that set up. You want to make sure you have a globe on the top right-hand side so anybody can do the drop down to the language to find it. So that's where it's worth spending some time and money. Then pick your cocktail party that you're going to go to. I got a LinkedIn and it works for me there. We got a quote in yesterday from Switzerland that had come across a lot of the content that I had been posting there. So figure out whether LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, or which one's going to be best for you. And I think that's where you want to spend your time, which one you like your best. Then showcase your king, queen, and princess. Make sure that you've got content on a consistent basis that you're making appealing for people to take in. Think about your account-based management and your targets, and then train your salesperson on the technology. We happen to use HubSpot. If you have any questions about that, happen to ask. We're a partner and specialize in marketing translation. And remember, you're not alone in this journey. There's a lot of resources that are out there to help. There are STEP grants that are for small and mid-sized businesses that want to export, and they can help you get your website. You can use STEP grants to help with your website. We have some packages for that. That is making sure your website is optimized and then translated so you can pull people in. Happy to connect you to the people that do those. We've got a full learning center, so if I've brought up some questions you haven't answered, we do a global marketing podcast that you can go to all the places that you listen and look up Global Marketing Show and find it. If you know anybody who'd be, as a global marketing expert that would be good to interview, have them connect with me. And now, right now, go to LinkedIn and look for Wendy Pease, translation expert. Reach out to connect with me and mention this presentation, and I will send you the website translation ebook that will give you even more information. So happy to help in any way that I can. Thanks so much for attending.